Well, welcome to the show, AJ. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Spirit Business Podcast. So cool we connected on Twitter and you walk the talk, because that is actually how I found you and how we connected. Then I started digging into your website and thought, you would be a great guest for my audience of conscious entrepreneurs. So I'm going to go ahead and read your bio to let everyone know a bit about your background.
Sure.
So AJ Amyx, in 2009, he put down his guitar to stop touring as a professional musician and built a personal brand known as the hashtag Twitter Rockstar, where he trained over 10,000 people on how to use Twitter to generate leads and sales. Now he's an international personal brand and business growth strategist who teaches business owners and entrepreneurs how to build and grow an online business using social media and other innovative marketing strategies. Along the way, he's been featured on CNN, Business Insider, Creative Live, and is a mentor to several of Forbes' top social media influencers. He's the creator of the online courses, Tweet Like a Rockstar, the AJs system, and the high converting webinar starter kit. AJ is also a keynote speaker, business coach, and social media consultant. He's the creator of the online course, I already said that, Tweet Like a Rockstar, and the founder of Conquer Creator. So he's taught over 10,000 entrepreneurs and has spent thousands of hours coaching and consulting. And so he knows what works and what doesn't. So excited to dive into the content today. You call yourself a lifestyle business coach. And I just love for people to hear your story of this transition from being a touring musician. It sounds like you were a successful musician with labels and out there touring. How did you fall into being a business coach?
So it started doing social media marketing. So like when I was touring and doing the music thing, yes, I wrote music, but my main job was leadership. Like I led 4 guys. We're a 5-piece band. So I had to lead 4 other guys every single week to actually producing stuff. And it's one thing to be able to write really good music that sells, but it's another thing to completely sell it. So beyond just writing and performing, I designed our t-shirts. I figured out what the pricing, what was the merchant, all the tour logistics, all the booking, raising money, doing the tour bus thing, and buying money for the tour bus and having the vision for what that was going to look like, having the vision for what the company of Trade Cities LLC looked like as a band. I ran it like a business. So that was kind of my first kind of glimpse, I guess, into the world of business as far as me working. And what I found is I'm not a good musician. I just work really hard. Like I know it's really crazy, but I don't know how to read music. I don't know how to read notes. I know nothing about music theory, but I know it feels good, right? And I know how to write things that sound good and that people liked, and I was able to tweak them. But what I was better at and what I loved, like what I was passionate about, was business and marketing. So ultimately that led me down into the game of, social media. I saw the opportunity in 2010 that social media was going to be a big tool for businesses. So in 2009, so kind of going back and forth on the story here, 2009, we decided not to do music anymore because we had different visions. I wanted us to make money as an artist. The other guys just wanted to do music. And so there wasn't the same vision in place, right? So I was like, well, fine. You guys be broke. I'm going to go make some more money because I enjoy the game of creating businesses and making money doing something that I love doing. At that point in time, I love writing music and making money doing it, right? So that's how I got into the game of social media. So I started an agency called A New Way to Market. And so then I took on working for brick and mortars. I took on a contract for one of the largest marketing firms for law firms, where I was running all of their social media. I was their liaison between them and their clients. I had like 22 clients on a monthly basis, and I got burnt out, and I reached out for some help because on my vision board at that time in 2012, just randomly, I don't even know how this got there. I mean, I know how I got there because I put it there, right? But I just never really saw it before. So one day I was burnt out. I looked at my vision board just randomly, and this little quote jumped out, and it said, "The highest achievers have always relied on mentors." And I was like, never had a mentor before. And immediately this guy came to mind. His name was Garrett J. White. He runs an organization called Wake Up Warrior right now. Amazing organization for high achieving, high producing men. So I reached out to Garrett. I met Garrett at Brenda Richard's event in 2012. And I was like, yo, Garrett, this is where I'm at. This is where I want to go. I don't know if you can help me. I don't even know what you do, but let me know. And he reached back out to me. This was through Facebook private message. And he's like, that's exactly what I do. Let's hop on a phone call. Hopped on a phone call. That was my first mentor. I invested into Garrett J. White, transformed my life. And so that guided me down the path of saying, hey, let's stop doing so much work, because that's not my genius. My genius is really strategy. My genius is really like mentoring and bumping into things in life, and then being able to find lessons and bring that back into humanity. And so that's how I started to teach, started running group classes, started creating products, started creating programs of just what I've experienced. It's not like something I went out and read and I just regurgitate. It's like, hey, this is what I did for law firms, and this is what worked for them, and this is the system. You go do it too. And ultimately that's led me to having, my lifestyle business. You and I were having a conversation of, I still work 8 to 10 hour days. There's sometimes when I only work 4 hours a day, but I like to work. Like, it's fun to me, And so that's my lifestyle business, is I get to work. I can do it from anywhere in the world. And so me and my wife, we do travel, and I get to continue to up level, because I love to learn. I continue to up level and experience life and create lessons, things I've learned, and say, hey, this is what works. This is what doesn't work. If you want to get results, do this. So that's ultimately how I went from musician to where I'm at today.
Wow. Brilliant. Yeah. And it really sounds like your mentor helped you step into your genius, so really playing on your strengths, it sounds like. And,
absolutely.
The part you mentioned, I'll just comment briefly about, working full time. That was surprising for me to hear, because you think, when you get to a certain level, maybe you won't want to work as much, but ultimately it does seem like life is about learning, and learning is fulfillment. You're really just going to get bored and reach a plateau if you're, sitting on the beach all half
At the end of the day, Sarah, life's about growth. We're either growing or we're dying. There is no in between. Like, there is no plateau. You're either growing or you're dying. You're either thriving or you're dying. That's it. The law of nature. You can look at plants. You can look at trees. They either grow and flourish or they die. Like, there's no in between. There's no like, I'm good at, just maintaining being a plant. They're still regenerating life and chlorophyll and all of that. So they're either thriving or they're dying. And humans are that way. And if we're not growing, then most people aren't going to feel like they're on purpose, and then they're going to be bored.
Totally. Now, if you don't mind, before we jump into the strategy, because I think, stories are really powerful. That's what I do in video production, is helping,
Awesome.
businesses and brands tell their stories. And I just think, people would like to hear, you had some hard times, before you got to this place of being the Rockstar coach that you are and reaching the level you have with social media. And particularly, you're very grounded in faith and spiritual practice. Can you briefly just tell us, was it the Brendan Burchard event, or, how did you find your way out of the darkness to get on this path of success?
So life has this funny thing of giving you exactly what you need to grow. And some people walk through the doors and they grow and they evolve and they hit their targets. And some people buy into fear and their ego, and they don't walk through the door of opportunity, and they live with a life full of regret, right? There's people that do die having massive amounts of regret, and there's people who do live a very full life. And what's the difference? The only difference is choosing to make a decision to step through the doors of opportunities. That's it. Doesn't get any more simple than that, right? And so that's what I've always done. I have a tenacity, a work ethic. Some people call this grit. If you've read the new book, not a new book, but it's a book called Grit, where it's just tenacity, where if you want something, go get it. I've always been that way. I've always been this high achieving person, whether it's been in sports or art or music or business. It doesn't matter. Whatever I want, I'm willing to go get it. And I will not stop. I'm very obsessive. Like when I was playing soccer growing up, I was always on a club team. I was always on one of the best teams. I was always the team captain. And it wasn't because I was highly talented. I did have an aptitude to be pretty good at the sport. But beyond that, I worked every single day. While most kids my age were playing video games, I had a ball outside, like kicking it at trees because I grew up in East Texas, or kicking up against the barbed wire fence, which had a mesh wire at the bottom so it didn't pop the ball, or rolling it off the top of the house. Like, it was always just working, and I was obsessed, and that's why I was really good and got offered to play in college, but I didn't take the scholarship because my body was falling apart. So then when it came into music, it was the same thing. I'm not the greatest musician, but I work really, really, really hard. And so when you talk about like these pitfalls, yes, I've experienced pitfalls of all sorts. I could pretty much been at rock bottom at everything in my life except my health at some point. But I just have that tenacity to ask what Tony Robbins calls quality questions, right? So it's a universal law. We call it a law of nature. Ask and you shall receive. Knock and the door shall be open. So we have to become very aware of what we're asking for, because we will receive it. So if we're asking empowering questions, we will receive empowering answers. Now, on the same side of that coin, if we're asking disempowering questions, we will receive disempowering answers. So in these times, which I'm happy to get into, and which I was kind of at like rock bottom, and there's been multiple times, and I know there's going to be more times in the future at some point where I'm going to have a low, but my highs continue to get higher and my lows continue to get better than my last low, or I'm able to rebound from it faster. I'm able to shift out of it, which we'll probably get into talking about today. How do we do that a little bit, right? But it really comes down to questions. If I ask myself, why did this happen to me? Why does this? Why does that? And I victimize myself, well, then life's going to give me more reasons for me to have a logical conclusion of why I'm a victim and why this always happens to me. Now, if I become self-aware and I can ask better questions of like, all right, this isn't what I wanted. This is interesting. What can I learn from this? What good can come from this? And immediately your brain, your ego will say, well, nothing good can come from this. But you have to have that mental aptitude or the mental awareness to be like, I refuse to accept anything less than good from this. I refuse. Maybe it's stubbornness, but by that denial, you will find good, because that's what you're searching for. And then from that, you're going to find possibilities, opportunities for you to walk through those doors to ultimately create what you want.
Transform, making lemons out of lemonade, the cliche, but definitely it sounds like it's an ongoing practice and commitment to just staying in the game, right? That's
absolutely
awesome. All right, well, let's dive into some of the practical strategies. Love to give all of my listeners just strategies they can go out and implement right after this podcast. So you talk about there are 4 areas that we should conquer in the business realm: mindset, marketing, mechanics, and money. Can you give a brief description of these areas and give us an idea of why these are important?
So let's look at the first one, mindset. So a lot of people want to skip into marketing, into sales, into mechanics in the game of building a business of some sort, right? But if we're not at a place of personal power, which is mindset, then we can go execute on the mechanics all day long, and it may not work, because the world gives us exactly that which we are at our core, right? So one of my favorite quotes from Neville Goddard is, as a man is, so does he see. Very deep concept. As a man is, so does he see. So this means if I'm going to skip the game of mindset, if I'm going to skip this and go straight into mechanics, into marketing, into strategies to make money, but at my core, I see myself as this awkward, skinny white boy, then God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, is going to give you opportunities to be the skinny, awkward white boy. Now, the moment I can see myself as this person who's credible, who's powerful, who has a solution to get whatever it is that I'm offering for a value exchange for sales, and I see myself as, I'm a badass, I deserve this, look how amazing I am, and I'm willing to go do work, well, then God, universe, spirit, whatever we are going to call it, whatever works for you, is going to give you opportunities to be that. So it's as a man is, so does he see, right? So that's the mindset piece. And ultimately, that's why it's massively crucial to handle that, because it has a ripple effect on the other pieces, the marketing, the mechanics, and the money. So the marketing piece is absolutely crucial because it brings in leads. It helps us build an audience, right? So I'm all about building a lifestyle business. That means different things to different people. If we go look it up, the definition online, it pretty much just says somebody who has a business based on some type of passion. That doesn't mean that you only work 4 hours a week. Doesn't mean that you work 2 hours a day. Doesn't mean that you have to be a beach bum. Different things to different people. I have clients of mine, their lifestyle business is living a month in New York with their family, and the rest of the 11 months of the year, they're at home working with their family, and they have board game nights and book trivia nights, and they're happy, right? So it means different things to different people. But without mastering the game of marketing, we're broke because we don't have an audience, right? So we have to like level up our ability to market and be a mouthpiece for the message that's coming through us. The other piece is the mechanics. So mechanics is the systems, the email autoresponders, the funnels, etc., the technology piece that ultimately is allowing us to leverage our ability to be able to go out and make more impact. So I'm a huge proponent of technology. A lot of people, they're technophobes. They're scared of it. They're afraid they're going to break it. You can't really break anything. Just learn to break it. Break things faster. You're going to get better, right? It's always kind of been my thing is, if I can't, let me just break it and I'll learn a lesson from that. And then I'll continue moving forward. So the mechanics piece is technology. A lot of people look at it as a tactic or a tool rather than how can I use this tactic or tool to be an extension of who I am in this world so I can reach more people, so I can have more influence and more impact, which ultimately is going to help you build a bigger audience. And then the money piece, we have to make sales, period. Like you have to learn to be comfortable in making sales. You have to be comfortable with talking about money, because if you're not, then if we look at the deeper root of that, you have some type of relationship with money that's you're like, I don't want to talk about that. And if you're not comfortable with it, then you're not able to make more of it. And if you're not able to make more of it, then you cannot grow and scale. And you're staying in this little hamster wheel of like just scarcity and have money and scarcity and abundance, scarcity. But rather than just being like, money is my friend. Money comes to me always, right? I have a friend of mine, Marcy Locke. She talks about making money as like breathing air. And for her, it is because again, as a man or a woman is, so does he or she sees. So for her, she sees life is, her state of being is, money is easy. It's like breathing air. And as a result, the game of business is easy for her. It's very simple as long as she does her strategy of what she's committed to do. So these are why I talk about the 4 areas, the mindset, the marketing, mechanics, and money, because if you're not leveling up in all 4 areas, you're not going to be able to move everything forward simultaneously.
Wow, that is really powerful. And you break it down in a way that just makes it sound a lot, it's simplified, just focus on these 4 areas and, starting with the mindset and then moving on.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Of course.
And so in terms of the marketing, you really mastered Twitter. Yes. And I know my listeners are dying to know, what are some of the strategies they can use? Mm-hmm. And I wonder if you can talk about Twitter as, your marketing tool to build momentum in your business, but it isn't your primary sales tool. Is that right?
I would say yes and no. It can be both. And so for people listening today, there's 7 deadly mistakes. We have time to get into 3. So mm-hmm. the first mistake pretty much is this idea of positioning, which means they're not using a personal profile picture. They're using a logo or they don't have one. But we live in a day and age where people want to connect with people. So use a personal profile picture and show up with power, confidence, and certainty and clarity within that image. Because people say, hey, don't judge a book by their cover. But here's the reality. We do. And in the offline world, when we walk into an event, we're like looking at people and we're like, and we're drawn to certain people that we want to communicate, right? Because beyond the words that are coming out of our mouth and beyond the clothes that we have, we're all emitting frequency, light, energy, etc. And like frequency attracts, right? It's a law of vibration. So you're going to be drawn. So if you're showing up powerfully within that photo, you're going to be sending out that vibration, that frequency of people who's going to resonate with you. So if you take that picture when you're scarce, then you're probably going to resonate with people who are in scarcity. If you're going to be taking that picture when you're a place of clarity in your business, confidence and certainty, knowing from a mindset place where you can serve people and that you deserve everything and need nothing, then you're going to attract a higher caliber of people, because they're going to be like, man, there's just something about this Sarah person that I want to reach out to, right? So having a powerful profile image. Second piece of the positioning piece is having what I call like a rocking bio. A lot of people make mistakes of throwing random words, random hashtags, random links, when this is your opportunity to allow people to connect with you. So use 3 or 4 words that describe you as a human being in life and in business. And this little second snips, they can be like, oh, well, this person sounds interesting. And then having in that bio what I call is a power statement. The power statement is nothing more than I help who do what. You don't have to make this clever. You don't need to make it sexy. Don't make it overcomplicated. Keep it ridiculously simple. I help who do what. And that way, when somebody comes into contact with your account, which we may get into today, they're like, well, who's this Sarah person? She seems really amazing. And then they read their bio and they're like, oh, she loves, spirituality and is a podcast host. That's really cool. And she helps people produce videos to get these results. That's interesting. They click on the website. That becomes a click through where you're generating traffic to your website, right? And the last piece of the positioning piece is having a cover image. Lots of people don't use this at all. And it's like a virtual billboard. You're driving traffic, targeted traffic to this page. So use that space that's 3,000 pixels wide by 1,000 pixels tall to be able to be a billboard for your business, whether you're using, lifestyle photography to be able to position you as the authority, whether promoting some type of downloadable resource, your podcast, etc. Use that opportunity. So that's mistake number 1, is the positioning piece. The second big probably mistake here, and I'm looking at my notes here, and it's the plan. So the planning piece is most people are sporadically tweeting. They have no plan. So I always tell people tweet at least 4 times a day. You can do as much as 9 times a day. I do a lot more than 9. But I used to tell people 9 and they'd be like, oh, it's too much. And they wouldn't do it. So I'm breaking down to say be 4 times. And I was at this meditation retreat. It's been in February. So it's been probably 3 or 4 months ago now. And it was a breathing retreat, actually. It wasn't the meditation retreat. And then I'm going to make this relevant to the idea of having a plan. And so we're learning this breathing technique. We just got done going through the 3-day course. And one of the students, he said, well, teacher, I don't remember the person's name, when should I do this technique? Right? And the teacher goes, well, whenever you do it. And he's like, I get it. But like morning, afternoon, evening, when do I need to do this thing? And he said, whenever you do it. And he's like, I know, but give me a time. And he's like, the teacher finally was like, look, whenever you do it is perfect, because you're brand new. So I don't care when you do it, just do it. Right? So when it comes to this idea of tweets, there's people be listening like, well, should I do 4, should I do 5, should I do 6, should I do 9? Do whatever you're willing to commit to. And what times of the day do you need to post? Statistically, you're going to have more viewers or more attention from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Now, that's just kind of on average. Doesn't mean that it won't be different for you, but on average. But again, if you're brand new to the game, whenever you do it is perfect, right? So 4 times a day, and think through the types of tweets. So whether it's going to be a tweet to your blog post, whether it's going to be a third-party share, where you're curating content, whether it's going to be a statistic, whether it's going to be a quick tip, right? You think about the types of tweets and just create a schedule, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the different types, and whatever that comes to that type, just create that type of content and ship it. So you're not going into Twitter and like, well, what am I going to say? I have no idea. Do the creative work. It's just like a musician. We have a set list. We don't just hop on the stage and, well, let's just, what song do you guys want to do, guys? I don't know. We think through the experience that we want to create for the audience, and whatever that we agreed upon, we do it. We don't change it. That's what we agreed upon. That's what we rehearsed, right? So the second piece is plan. The other huge mistake I see a lot of people making is responding with 1-word answers. Now you have to keep in mind, the culture of Twitter is conversational. It's like walking into a bar with your wife or with your husband or your boyfriend or girlfriend, and you're ordering a drink, and behind you, you hear these people talking about Weimaraners, which is a type of dog. And let's say you have a Weimaraner, and if so, that's what Sarah and I used to have. And we would be like, man, hey, babe, these are people talking about like Weimaraners, and we get our drink, and we would just walk into the conversation and be like, hey, guys, don't mean to interrupt you, but we heard you guys talking about Weimaraners. We have one. You mind if we just hop in and join the conversation? They'd be like, oh, sure. What's your dog's name? And then we would be there talking with them all evening about dogs and whatever else it led to. And who knows if that even leads to business opportunities. Well, on Twitter, it usually does lead to opportunities when we get into conversation. You get to get on podcasts like this, Sarah. You get to get on virtual summits. I've been invited to speak on different stages. I've had clients. I've had so many opportunities from just being able to conversate rather than just pushing one-way communication with Twitter. And people drop the ball on this. So when somebody says, hey, thanks for following, they're like, you're welcome. That's no different than you going to like this Christmas party with your family and you haven't seen your cousin in, let's say, a year, and you guys used to be childhood friends, did everything together. And you're like, yo, man, like, how has things been in your life? And he's like, they've been good. You're like, well, what have you been up to? Not much. You're like, okay, well, this conversation is going nowhere. Let me go to talk to my uncle or my aunt or my grandfather, somebody that's actually going to have a great conversation with me. I don't know why people don't understand this when it comes to social media, Twitter specifically. We're very good at conversating, most people, unless you're the awkward cousin. But we're usually pretty good offline talking to people. And we have conversation starters that are kind of our go-tos. And it's not awkward. We just have our kind of formula that we use. Well, what we need to do is take these offline ability to communicate and conversate and bridge that back into the game of Twitter to start generating this into like, hey, what are you looking to accomplish over the next 90 days? What's the coolest thing you're working on? Hey, I noticed you host a podcast. What type of guests you usually do? Hey, I noticed you host this podcast. What made you start that? Like, just get into conversations with people in your market. If you just did these 3 things differently, you would open up doors of opportunity to ultimately grow your business. So hopefully that answers your question, Sarah, about like, what are 3 mistakes, how to use Twitter to grow your business and ultimately to make sales, right? So if we look at sales, the person who's asking questions is always in control of the conversation. So if I'm the one asking questions, then I'm the one who's dictating the flow of that, with my ultimate goal being to get on the phone, get into some type of Zoom, get to coffee, get you to my website, get you to download, get you to my podcast, whatever I got going on, if it's relevant. So I never come across as one of these spammers who's like, hey, I do this podcast thing, go check it out. I may ask a question after we go back and forth a bit, which is, hey, you listen to podcasts? And then they respond, they're like, I do. You're like, what type of podcast? Well, I love like spiritual business, conscious entrepreneurship. Really? Well, cool. I host this show. I just did this interview with this person. I think you'll like it. You mind if I send you the link? Yeah, sure. Boom. I send them the link. Now I'm not spammy, but yet I still just promoted my podcast. Now, granted, guys and ladies, I don't have a podcast. That's Sarah's thing. That's what she does really good, not me.
But point taken. I mean, that is just so important. And I just had an aha moment about the analogy of going into a party, compared to getting on Twitter, because you sent me a question. And when you sent that question, I realized how rare it was. And that started my brain going, thinking, why is it? What happened? Because I do think many years ago, people were more likely, when Twitter first started, to be more engaged and to have more of a conversation. That does seem to have gotten lost. And the aha moment I just had was like, you don't want to be that person who walks into like a networking event, is like, hey, have you seen this article? Exactly. Hey, have you seen this video? Like, you would actually ask them questions about who they are, how their day is going. I mean, just very basic. And that's what I do actually when I go to networking events, because I'm not so interested in spamming and coming across as aggressive. But somehow we've gone to this other extreme. So I think what you just said is really going to resonate with a lot of people, and we can all start doing that.
You just nailed it on the head. For some reason, people look at technology, the mechanics, as a tool, a tactic, right? A promotional tactic, rather than really thinking through, on the other end of this keyboard that you're communicating and pushing messages, there's another human being, like, that's breathing oxygen, that has blood running through their veins. They have fingers, they have the ability to think, and you have an opportunity to use the tactic or the tool to be an extension of who you are to build genuine relationships with people in your market, to ultimately find win-win for both people. And if you can do that, then both people are happy, whether you're the seller or the buyer.
Totally. And I know you mentioned in a blog post that, most people, when they're looking into a product or service, or just exploring coaches, exploring services, etc., what's going through their head is, what's in it for me?
Absolutely.
And so can you elaborate on that and expand about, how to connect with people from that perspective? I mean, you already touched on it, but is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
Yes. So, every single person on the planet is tuned into one frequency. What's in it for me? And so all the time, we just stay here on Twitter for a second. I get direct messages every single day of, hey, this is what I'm up to. You should go check it out. And I'm like, why in the hell do I need to go check out anything you're up to? Number one, I don't know who you are. You're taking time out of my life. So they can still promote it, but they need to do it in a way where they've done their research on their market. And so rather than using words like you use words like you, right? So let's say if I was an author, and they had a direct message that only went out to authors, and it said, hey, I noticed you're an author. Now I'm already like, walls coming down a bit, because I'm like, hey, this person knows I'm an author. Cool. I'm an author. How did he know that? That's cool. Right? So he has my attention, and he's like, hey, I created, I have this thing called whatever, and I really thought it would help you sell more books. Thought you'd like to check it out. Like, that's going to convert better, because the author who's in a state of, how do I sell more books? And this is the promotional message that's saying, hey, I noticed you're an author. Here's the thing to help you sell more books. I thought it may help you. They're like, man, thank you so much. I've been looking for a solution to sell more books, right? Rather than, hey, I created this thing. You should go check it out. Why? Right? So it's in the language that we're using, just simple language tweaks to be direct response, where you're talking directly to the person. So you're always appealing to what's in it for them, because at the end of the day, nobody cares about me, Sarah. And if I'm real honest, nobody cares about you either, right? They're listening to your show because they want to get something for their life. So it's you and I's duty to give them something for their life that's ultimately going to help them. And if we can help them, then they're going to in turn help us. And if they're not the one who's going to help us, somebody out in the marketplace is going to help us, as long as we serve enough people.
Totally, totally. And I think it's all about building rapport.
Absolutely.
Developing that rapport and letting someone know you're like me. That's why I want to connect with you. And I have something to share that you might like that can benefit you.
Yeah. Or even further, I was like you. I used to be you. And I've learned these things, and I experienced this thing that I don't want you to experience. So I created this thing. I hope it helps you.
Definitely, definitely. And that's actually a good segue for us to talk about the power of storytelling.
Absolutely.
In social media. I know you have your story on your website, and I believe you share it in videos. You have a really great video right on your homepage. Yay for that. So what is the power of storytelling? How do you use storytelling in your marketing?
So here's the thing. Everybody says we live in the information age, which I'm not 100% sold on any longer, because information flows like water in today's marketplace. So information for the sake of information is this information. Why should I buy from you versus somebody else who has the same information as you? You both say the same thing. I got to make a decision on somebody. What's going to be the differentiating factor? And beyond case studies and all of that and social proof, let's remove that out of the equation. It's going to be the stories that we tell. That's what's going to keep us separated from the other people in our marketplace, is because some people are going to resonate with our stories. And so to me, this is why stories are crucial when we're talking about marketing, when we're talking about my story. So like even my story, talking about how I grew up in East Texas and talking about how I went into musician and how I felt called to help people, have a positive difference on the world. And that led me down into marketing. That's going to resonate with a certain portion of people. At the same time, there's other people in my space who tell a different story, and there's certain people that resonate with their story, and that's good, right? So to me, this is why it's so important to have stories, because stories really are the differentiating factor. And there's a whole science. You and I could talk for hours just on frameworks to craft stories, but learn how to tell stories. Joseph Campbell of The Hero's Journey is a great, great framework to learn that. Another great book on storytelling is called Winning the Story Wars by Jonas Sachs. Great, great, phenomenal book. The whole tagline pretty much of the book sums it up, which is those who tell the best stories and live the best stories, super important, rule the future. Because it's one thing to tell a story. It's another thing to tell a story and live it. And this comes back into the idea of being congruency and how we no longer live in the age of information, but rather we live in the age of intuition. Meaning just because you craft a story, if you're not living it, people can sense that you're full of shit. I don't know any way to say that in a nice way, right? Their BS detectors are like, nope, you're not congruent with that. I can feel who you are. I can feel your fear. I can feel your scarcity. So I'm going to choose to go with this other storyteller who's very clear, very confident, and very certain in their message. And I'm going to go choose to work with them because they're coming from a place of abundance and a heart space felt intention, right? So that's why those who tell stories and live the stories will continue to rule the marketplace moving forward.
Amazing, amazing. I'm going to check out that book. I know about Joseph Campbell and I'm a big fan, but the second book sounds really fascinating. So that brings us to the question of using video in our businesses. I know you are using video on a regular basis, it looks like. What is the power of video, and have you seen more of a return on investment by implementing video into your business?
So for me, video becomes an extension of who I am, right? So I could sit here and talk to you, and I know this is going to be a video as well as it's moving forward. So when I go to sleep, the energy that I'm showing up within this video, the confidence, certainty, the clarity, the concepts, etc., as I'm sleeping, I'm still speaking to people as if I was right here doing it now in real time, because it's capturing that moment. So for me, video is amplifying my ability to reach and connect with people at a deep level on automation, the mechanics. It's leveraging me. It's like cloning myself a bit, right? So to me, that's the beauty of video. And there was a stat, I don't remember the stat the other day, but by like 2019 or something like that, 75% of web traffic was going to become on video. Don't quote me on that stat. It's something like that. Just Google it. You'll find the stat. So It's showing that as a society, we're going more video, more video. But even with that said, like if we look at Facebook videos, more people watch videos with the sound off and read the closed captioning than they actually watch the video with the sound on. So it's kind of this hybrid approach right now of people wanting video, but they want to read. They don't want to listen to you talk, right? So for those who are using video on Facebook, make sure you're using closed captioning if you're going to go all in on using video. But caveat here, Sarah. If somebody's weakness is video, meaning their natural talent is not to be on video, I do not steer them down video for the sake of that. Saying, well, the future says video is everything, so you should be on video. But if they're a great writer, then I'm discounting their gift, which is writing. And I will say, don't worry about video. Just write. Go all in on your talent, right? So while video has been huge for me, part of it is because I spent 10 years as a professional musician and I'm a camera whore. Like I love being on camera. Camera comes out, my wife will tell you, I'll be like, take pictures of me. I like taking pictures. I love being on camera and it's a huge passion/obsession of mine. I love it. So much fun for me. So it fits very well into the game of marketing for me because it's a passion of mine. So I would say for those who have talent, and you're going to get better and better and better. So what I mean by talent is you're drawn to be on camera, you have fun, you enjoy it, and you're willing to get better and better and better and better. Go all on video because it's going to change your business massively. For those who are like, nope, I'm a writer, I just want to write, I'm going to say, go all in and learn how to become a very, very good writer, which is a total art and science of itself, where you're learning how to become concise, where you learn how to take complex concepts and make them simple, where you learn how to write great headlines, where you learn how to chunk out concepts and highlight, and there's a whole science to writing. That would be my kind of my two spins on video.
Yeah, I think that we have to play on our strengths, but I would, argue that even the writer at a certain point will need a video. It's probably they don't want to start right now, but eventually they'll get to a certain level in their marketing where, they are doing videos and they don't necessarily have to be on camera. It can just be a video about them, and limited FaceTime. So,
Yep.
and of course, a writer could be writing scripts for their own video. So
Absolutely. No, you could do voiceover if you want to be direct to camera. Absolutely. There's lots of different ways to use video. I always just think of direct to camera, but you're right. If you want to do voiceover video, go for voiceover video. Absolutely.
definitely, definitely. Well, we are near the end of the show, but I would love if you have any other tips that you'd like to leave people with. You are very much a faith-based business owner. And if you'd like to end, I'm curious to know, in as much time as we have, how can people go out there and create their business from a place of faith instead of fear?
So it's really coming back again, checking into self. So faith is really, some people look at faith as something outside of themselves. Faith in God that lives up in the clouds way out there. If that works for you, fantastic. And a lot of my growth and development, God is like within every single human being on the planet, within. Like I am an extension, you're an extension. We're all little extensions of God made flesh in our best capacity, doing the best we can with whatever resources that we have to create, our version of heaven or hell right here, right now. So faith really becomes nothing more than feeling, right? So if we look at this and we're like, okay, I'm going to go create business, but I fear at my core, I have a feeling that I'm fearful, that I'm not good enough, that people aren't going to respect me, that they're not going to approve of me. Then we're creating from fear. And as a result, we're going to create opportunities in life where we have to work really hard. Nobody's really going to approve of us. We don't have a trust or respect from people, and life becomes hard, becomes very difficult. Now, if we can learn how to become aware and say, all right, how can I shift this? So I'm creating from faith, meaning a feeling that's congruent with what I want, then we're going to have opportunities to ultimately create that reality. So the question becomes, how do we shift out of fear versus faith? It's very simple. Now, keep in mind, this is not easy, but it is very simple, which is you taking ownership every single day, meaning you're hydrated every single day, because at a cellular level, if you're not hydrated, your body's in scarcity. There's no way for you to rise to higher frequencies if you're dehydrated. So drink enough water every single day. The next piece is coming into oxygen. If your body doesn't have enough oxygen at a cellular level, you're not operating at capacity. So how do we increase our oxygen levels? Meditate, breathe. Every single day, take some time to still your mind, to discipline your mind, and breathe so you're getting oxygen into the body. The next piece of it is nutrition, having good food. Again, how can we at a cellular level be operating at peak performance and have confidence and certainty if we're not having good nutrition in our body? So eat good food. Second, another piece is having energy. How do we get energy? By going and doing some type of rigorous physical exercise. Whatever that is for people. For me, I go box and I do cardio. For other people, they can just go lift weights. I got bored of lifting weights, so that's why I started boxing. But it's not a vanity thing. It's more of, you're going to have more confidence and certainty in self when you're in shape and you're pushing your capacity of your body. But more importantly, you're going to have more energy, so you're going to be able to show up and produce more, right? And the last piece of ownership is making sure you have that restoration, enough sleep. So if we're having oxygen and water and nutrition and energy from working out and restoration, so we are taking care of at a personal level. And then we have a marketing strategy, a business strategy where we're going out and executing with the resources that we have at our disposal. Then you're operating from this feeling of, I can conquer the world. I deserve to have everything I want. I am doing everything I can do with the resources I have at my disposal right now. And if you can say that without any doubt, because you're living your message, you will yield the results. And then it's just going to be a continual leveling up process to continue the game of expansion. So I hope, Sarah, this like makes people understand the difference between fear and faith, and how do we shift out of fear to get to living from this place of faith.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love how you laid it out. I wasn't expecting that, actually, all those pieces, the health pieces. And I think that just shows that in order to be a peak performer, we really have to look at things holistically and implement 100%. A holistic system.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, without the health piece, we definitely are going to burn out even if we're focused on those 4 areas that you mentioned.
It's funny, Sarah, like I will have people live ownership, like in their business, and they'll report back a month later that goes, hey, I just signed up 4 new clients. I'm like, what did you do differently? I just took ownership. What do you mean? I just took ownership and then did everything that I was supposed to do that's normal. And like, this life is easy. I have a client in Liverpool, and he'll call me and he's like, AJ, I feel like life is kind of like I'm bloody cheating, I do the same things that I used to do, but now it's just like easy and simple. Right? And it's just because, again, as a man is, so does he see. So if he's coming from a place of he's good with self and he's operating at peak performance, well, then he goes out and does work. He's attracting opportunities to meet him at peak performance. Doesn't mean that he's not scared. He still calls me because he's one of my coaching clients. He's like, man, I'm thinking about this sales conversation. I'm a little scared. I'm like, cool, no worries. Do this. Boom, 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 boom. Outline a framework. He leans into the fear. And then he's like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Boom. New person paying him $2,000 a month. Right? And as long as he continues to do that, he continues to up level and expand. But he understands it starts with ownership. There's no way around it. Otherwise, that's when we burn out. That's why we feel like business is hard, because we're doing it in reverse order.
Absolutely, because we're the leader. We're the ones, running the ship. We're sailing the sailboat, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, AJ, for coming on the show today. And I know that many people will want to reach out to you, and I think, want you as a mentor. You've just shared so many golden nuggets, and, people are going to need a coach to help them along the way. So where can they reach you? Where's the best place?
Yeah, just go to my website, AMYX.com. Just go there. There's tons of training, tons of resources, or just hit me up on like Facebook or Twitter. I'm really easy to find. It's just at AJ Amyx on Twitter /AJ Amyx on Facebook. I'm very, very easy to find. Just go there. Those are the best places to reach out, and we can have, carve out some time and we'll chat.
Beautiful. I hope everybody does that and goes and checks out the video on his website and some of the other content such as blog posts. Thank you so much again. And we will definitely continue the conversation on Twitter and continue moving forward.
Yeah, you're most welcome. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.